What's the most I'm turning into my parents moment for you? I've always had a little sass in me, and most of my life. My shyness covered that up. Now I'm a one-woman sassacre. Thanks, Mom. My brothers have been telling me for years that I'm essentially our mom. To the point of calling me little mother in an endearing way, not a Norman Bates way. I own it. My dad will fall asleep just about anywhere, especially if he sits in recliner. So after I got my first full-time job out of college, I got home and me and my roommate were gonna watch a new episode of some show. I fell asleep in our recliner in less than 10 minutes. I woke up after the show ended and my roommate was like, yeah, you were out, and snored a little. When I went from oh hey this restaurant has live music, cool, to damn it, look at them setting up a drum kit. It's going to be too loud. I can't hear. Apostrophe. My so and I were packing and getting ready to road trip to some family's house for Thanksgiving. As I was cleaning up the house my so said something along the lines of, "Don't worry about it. You can clean when we get home." I replied with, "I do not want to come home to a dirty house." At that point I realized I'm turning into my mother. My mom used to find things for us in a minute after we had been looking for hours. My siblings and dad sometimes lose things and ask me to help because I always find it magically. I'm actually very excited about the mom touch to finding things. My dad has a way worked himself to death. Now he's retired. When he comes over now, as soon as he sits down on a couch he falls asleep within minutes. I'm noticing couches are starting to have the same effect on me. Same for my dad. He says it's from his military days, when he had to sleep, when he could get it. He will go days without sleep sometimes, since he also worked night shifts. So he gets home at like 6 AM, messes with the boat then heads out fishing, until he has to go back to work. When he comes to my house he'll hit the couch, and get 5 minutes into a movie before he's out. Sometimes he'll call me and be like, "I'm really liking this John Wick movie. I started it last week, I'm about halfway through." I don't think he's sat fully through a movie in my life. As I stared into the massive various saved rubber bands and twist ties. When I sit down and make a dad noise raga, don't forget the corresponding noise to get up HMMPH or HAP. When I would get irrationally pissed off when I would come home at night and see my roommate left a spoon in the sink instead of just washing it real quick. I started enjoying looking at grocery ads for discounts and have 3 discount cards. Finding myself excited to go to Lowe's. As a child I hated being dragged to that store. As an adult and new homeowner I totally get the appeal of buying power tools and gardening supplies to work on various home improvement projects. I repeat stories. Every time I go home to visit, I'll hear things from my dad that has either told me by phone already or stories I've heard 100 times. I found that I have also started telling people about stories from my past that I've already told them. Convenient that I don't make up BS. Or I'd have to remember all my BS. I remember you telling us about this. My dad was a fairly tall guy. I used to hate walking with him when I was about 4/5 because he'd take giant steps and I had to basically jog everywhere while he dragged my hand. My son is now 4 and I caught myself doing that exact thing about 2 months ago. Now I walk slower. I've always joked that my dad isn't really my father and I'm just a clone of my mom. I look like her, laugh like her, same mannerisms etc. Then I got the exact same health issues that she has. At the exact same age they began for her. Easy. Walking around turning off light switches complaining about waste of electricity. The moment I saw a high school picture of me. Turns out it was my dad's high school picture. I'm identical to my father and it's annoying as can be. I went mushroom picking with my friend a couple of months ago. We ended up meeting my dad and granddad also mushroom picking. I'm Polish for clarification and mushroom picking is like a national sport here. Edit. For you guys wondering I mostly pick Kirky chanterelles. So I'm at IHOP one day Already finished with breakfast. On my second cup of coffee. And the waiter comes with the bill. As I pull out my debit card to pay it, I put my wallet away and think to myself, just let me sit here and enjoy my coffee. Which is a phrase that my mother has used so many times at breakfast that she could patent it. I'll admit it does feel nice to just relax and enjoy it instead of rushing out the door as soon as you're done. Now it's something I do routinely. Edit. Indeed, I realize I can pay the bill and not leave immediately. It's just this one moment I vividly recall not doing so. Also, I probably should have mentioned that the town I live in is pretty small, and IHOP is usually quite dead most of the time. Otherwise I wouldn't take it upon myself to make people wait for a table while I'm just there sipping coffee. Over the course of college, I went from milk and sugar in my coffee to straight black with an espresso shot. I went from ketchup on a lot of things to simply salt and pepper. The sweet tooth turned into a salty/savory tooth. When me and my first girlfriend broke up, after telling myself I wasn't going to turn into my parents, we broke up because I did all the wrong things my parents do. Ate at an expensive restaurant, and for a secretary considered how much better and cheaper it would have been if I made the meal at home. Now I generally try to only order something that I can't make at home, so I can look it up later and find out how much work it would take to learn. I washed out the hummus container to save in case I needed it someday. My 3-year-old told me as I turned on the TV, "Don't turn on the news, Dad." I 100% remember saying that to my parents. There's always a certain age where you go from hating the news to becoming deeply interested in it. I realized I talk exactly like my father. I use the same speech patterns and I don't get to the point, which annoys me as well as anybody listening. The first time I told my kids to shut the door, "We aren't heating the outside." I finally get why they said it too. It costs money to heat/cool the house. I wake up, no alarm, every day at 4 AM to get ready for work. Just sit up like clockwork at 4. Never thought I would get to this point. Is it possible to learn this power? When we're together, we answer people with the exact same answers. While driving in my car, I will put my arm out to protect the passenger if I suddenly stop, even though they are wearing a seatbelt. Just like my mom, as the passenger in the front seat, I will step on the brake, even though there is no pedal, the old fake brake, just like my mom does. Having children. The shit that I've said has totally been shit my mom used to say. As a middle-aged male, I'm turning into my mother, and it terrifies me. Example, I swear to God, if I have to go in your room to clean it, it's all going into a garbage bag and being donated to kids that will appreciate it. I heard a loud noise and instantly got pissed off. Growing old alone, betrayed and bitter, family tradition. My wife got a picture of me in shorts that didn't come to my knees, a white tee that I wore under my work shirt, doing dishes, with my headphones in, listening to a podcast. It was a wake-up call I needed. When I started turning off the thermostat after my roommates leave it on. Me complaining about my dad shit, I'm just like my mom. Me complaining about my mom shit, I'm just like my dad. My dad used to come and stand behind the sofa wearing an apron whilst I was watching TV, and put his hands on his hips and watch a bit of whatever was on whilst he was waiting for something to cook. I now do exactly the same thing in my flat with my girlfriend when I'm cooking and she's watching TV. Edit. I get it. You don't like that I used whilst. I'm British. I can only apologize for my nationality. My dad does not wear an apron, but if he is cooking he always has a tea towel over his shoulder, and that's how you know he means business. I can only hope that I turn into my father. That man is the most amazing, fantastic guy I've ever known. He worked his ass off to make my childhood as magical as it possibly could be. For my birthday every year, he told me that the fairies would help me celebrate. He had me shove sticks into the ground outside, and he would always switch them out for my favorite flowers. One or two of them were always those fake roses with chocolate flowers. The fairies would also always leave me a pinata. It would usually be a sun, doused in glitter, and would always be left on our big tree in the backyard. Inside were all my favorite candies, and a toy wrapped in green wrapping paper. For Christmas, he would leave special handwritten notes from Santa Claus, and even paid our neighbor, who had a horse, to leave hoof prints in the snow outside. On the days leading up to St. Patrick's Day, we would construct a leprechaun trap. I'd wake up, only to find tiny footprints everywhere, and a pile of gold dollars. They were always too sneaky for us to catch. On Easter, the bunny would always leave me presents, and lots of eggs. But aside from all these super awesome things my dad did for me, there were bigger, more meaningful things he was always sure to do. For example, he always made sure that I feel heard. If ever I have a problem, he listens. He doesn't always have advice, but he's there, and that's what is most important. It didn't matter if the problem seemed small to him, because he knew it was big to me. He's always been one of my best friends. There for advice when I need it, for a hug or a shoulder to cry on. Hell, he did some truly silly things that I know he got teased for. I can distinctly remember him letting me paint his nails before work, which looked silly AF. My dad is about 6 feet 2, and at the time, was easily 200 lbs. But he went above and beyond all that. He taught me self-defense. He was a boxer back in the day. He taught me how to deal with anger and sadness in a healthy way. He also made it very clear that if anyone touched me, he'd kill them. He was my rock. He both kept me grounded and encouraged me to soar. He nurtured my creative side and encouraged my scientific one as well. I want to be exactly that for my son. I never want him to question whether or not I love him, whether or not he can come to me for absolutely anything. I have done my dead level best to drill into my child that there is nothing he can ever do to make me stop loving him, that I will always protect him, that anything he says to me will die with me, that his problems and concerns are never too small or too big for me to help with. I really hope that one day I have that holy shit, I'm my father moment. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.